Welcome to a presentation on special endorsement policy. My name is Jeffrey Yude, and I'm joined by my colleague, Prajakta Deshmukh, and we are staff members at the Professional Educator Standards Board, or PESB. The purpose of this presentation is to give you current information on specialty endorsement policy and to provide an opportunity for you to give feedback on potential changes to this policy. This presentation has four main parts. What are specialty endorsements? Some background on specialty endorsement policy, the approval process to offer a specialty endorsement, and a summary of recent board discussions and next steps. At the end of this presentation, we're going to be asking for your feedback and give you a chance to complete a survey. The results from this survey will be shared with the board. Now, I'll turn it over to Prajakta.
Thank you, Jeff. We would now be looking at the background on specialty endorsement policy. Next slide. So before we begin, what are specialty endorsements? Specialty endorsements are a type of focused professional learning which indicates specialized expertise or preparation in a particular area. It is important to note that specialty endorsement cannot stand alone on an educator certificate. An example of specialty endorsement is gifted education. So gifted education cannot be the only endorsement that an educator holds on a certificate. A teacher can hold a regular endorsement like elementary education and then add gifted education as a specialty endorsement on her certificate. On the next slide, we will see the difference between regular endorsement and specialty endorsement. All right. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, specialty endorsements are focused professional learning that indicates specialized expertise or preparation in a particular area. On the other hand, a regular endorsement is a specific subject matter or content area listed on an educator's certificate. To highlight the difference between the two, regular endorsements appear on a teacher certificate, while specialty endorsements can appear on a teacher certificate as well as on ESA and administrator certificate. Additionally, regular endorsements are tied to assignment policy and they have a statewide assessment, but specialty endorsements are not tied to assignment and they do not require a statewide assessment. Finally, regular endorsements have statewide competencies, while specialty endorsements have statewide essential learnings. On this slide, you can also see some examples of regular endorsements like elementary education, math, English, English language art, and also some example of specialty endorsements like gifted education, elementary and secondary computer science. Next slide. Now some context on specialty endorsements. So specialty endorsements are not new. They have existed as an educator credential category for many years. So before the new process was proposed by the work group, specialty endorsements would be added to the state system either through legislative mandate or through PESB board priority. For example, recently elementary and secondary computer science specialty endorsements were added through the state system through legislative mandate. It is also important to note that existing specialty endorsements like those that you see on this slide would continue to function under current policy, and educators would continue to hold these specialty endorsements. Then again, we also have some examples. I mentioned those already in the previous slide, the examples on specialty endorsements. Next slide. So here is some context on the educational professional work group that met in 2021. The PESB board directed staff to review policy and programs for educator professional growth. The work group composed of 22 members and it met 6 times in 2020 and 2021. And the main purpose of this work group was to review policy and program options for high quality professional growth throughout an educator's career. And then this work group recommended changes to policy around specialty endorsements. And then you can see on this slide, we also have a link if you want to learn more about this work group. So we'll now see what were the changes that were recommended by this work group in the next slides. All right. So the work group suggested 3 new changes to the specialty endorsement process. First is related to system level. Second one is related to provider level. And the third is educator level. And these changes were approved by PESB board for final WAC amendments in September 2021. So the first change that was recommended by the work group is at the system level. So in the past, the new specialty endorsement areas could only be added by legislative mandate or through board priority. The new policy now allowed community-based organizations to submit a proposal for a specific specialty endorsement area to be added to the state system. Then the second change is related to the provider level change. And earlier, specialty endorsements were offered only by educator preparation programs, but the work group suggested a new change in the policy in that community-based organizations, along with teacher preparation programs, can also now provide specialty endorsements. And for instance, we now have specialty endorsements like elementary computer science and secondary computer science. So this policy would allow community-based organizations to offer these specialty endorsements to educators. And then finally, the third change is related to the educator level. In the past, it was only teachers who could earn specialty endorsements. Now, specialty endorsements can be earned by administrators, ESAs, in addition to teachers. And then just wanted to highlight here that these changes were suggested by the work group and they were approved by PESB board as WAC amendments in September 2021. And you can see the WACs are incorporated in the slide, so you can take a look at that as well. Next slide. So now we would be transitioning and we would be looking at what is the current approval process that we have in order to offer a specialty endorsement. Next slide. So the approval process to offer a specialty endorsement is a one-stage process. Organizations submit a proposal form to the board for approval. And then we'll see the details of this process on the next slide. But it is important to note that organizations who are approved to offer a specialty endorsement will undergo a reapproval process every 5 years. Next slide. All right. Now, so through the approval process, organizations will describe their specialty endorsement model, including the essential learnings, organizational capacity, and participant recruitment and retention strategies. Organizations will also detail how they are responding to educators, student, and community needs. And then we also have a couple of attachments along with the specialty endorsement proposal forms. So organizations are required to submit at least 2 letters of support from education or community-related organizations. They would also be submitting a budget that is approved by their organization. And then finally, it is important to note that once the organization submit the specialty endorsement proposal, the PESB internal review team reviews the proposal and makes a recommendation of whether the proposal is ready to come forward to the board. If the internal review team recommends that the proposal is ready to come forward to the board, then it goes on PESB board's consent agenda. And with that, so this was just a little bit of background on specialty endorsement and the current approval process that we have in place to offer a specialty endorsement. I would now like to pass it over to Jeffrey to talk about the board discussions around this policy in September and July?
Thank you. So in this next section, we're going to summarize the discussion that the board had in July and September on specialty endorsement policy. At the July retreat, the board had a chance to discuss all three levels of policy related to specialty endorsement. And during this discussion, the board concluded that no changes were needed to the system level policy. In other words, preparation programs, clock hour providers, and community-based organizations can continue to propose that new specialty endorsements be added to the state system. The purpose of this policy was to ensure an opportunity for the community to offer ideas for specialty endorsements. Also, during the July discussion, the board concluded that no changes were needed to the educator level policy as well. Previously, only teachers could earn specialty endorsements, but under the current policy, you can have teachers, administrators, and ESAs like school counselors or school psychologists earning specialty endorsements. The board is considering changes to this part of the specialty endorsement policy at the provider level. Changes being considered would involve who can offer specialty endorsements. At the July meeting, the board determined that further discussion was needed around this policy. At the July meeting, the board closely considered specialty endorsement provider level policy, and this slide lists the benefits and challenges that the board discussed. The benefits focus on providing wider opportunity for community engagement and voice, educators gaining from community knowledge, the opportunity to meet the individual needs of educators, and an overall move towards decolonizing our educational systems. The challenges focus on how to ensure that providers of specialty endorsements undergo some sort of a review process, that preparation programs might be put in the challenging position of credentialing educators, and that PESB board and staff have limited capacity to review and support non-educator preparation programs. Now for some updates from the September board meeting, as well as next steps in this process. The board is currently considering a policy change that would require community-based organizations to partner with educator preparation programs when offering specialty endorsements. As we're moving forward, the board is going to continue this discussion at the November board meeting. Such a policy change would impact preparation programs as well as community-based organizations and clock hour providers. So the PESB board wants to hear from you. The PESB staff will be gathering feedback on this policy proposal, so look for a survey from PESB soon. Here's how community-based organizations, clock hour providers, and preparation programs can help with this decision-making process. Number one, complete the survey. Number two, you're welcome to provide public comment to the board on behalf of your program, and the PESB webpage has a link to allow you to provide public comment. And just to note that any policy changes and WAC amendments that would be taking place would need at least 3 board meetings to take effect. And that's just the way that the process works. That completes our presentation. If you have questions, please contact us at the email addresses on this slide. Thank you for your consideration of these policies, and we look forward to receiving your feedback.